There's no place like the Qube. Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn, with our queer news for today. Now, I want to make you a promise. We will continue to bring you the latest in queer news, culture, and politics every Monday by 7 a.m. Chicago time. So, if you are digging our intersectional take on the weekly, consider joining the QCrew. The QCrew is our monthly membership program we started to help grow the podcast. You get weekly emails from me, exclusive interviews with LGBTQ influencers from across the country, and beginning this year, special behind-the-scenes footage too. With your support, we can bring you more stories celebrating our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and comrade communities. Click the link in the show notes to join the QCrew today. Don't have $5 to join the QCrew? It's okay. There's things you can do for free. You can rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend. Or two. Family. Black people in the South make up 38% of the population, but 52% of all new HIV infections. So why aren't we talking about it? I'm Anna DeShawn, your favorite queer radio personality. My co-host Dwayne Kramer and I will explore the shame, the stigma, and the solutions. This is Black HIV in the South. How did we get here? Tune in on the Qube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now for the news. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of a trans girl's right to play sports in West Virginia. Can you believe that? I can't believe I just said it. Now, this is all while 20 states have instituted bans. Let's name those 20 states today, okay? 2 TikTok stars raised $1.6 million on TikTok for an LGBTQ nonprofit, and a young lady prom-poses to her girlfriend in front of the whole school with the help of the cheer squad. Yo, let's go.
Are you lost in your podcast journey? If so, you found the right podcast. My name is DJ Tracy Treese, and I'm a podcast producer. In partnership with the Qube, I'm bringing you the Lost and Found for podcasters. I've worked behind the scenes on some of your favorite podcasts, and I'll be bringing you some great conversations with podcast industry experts to help you find your way through your podcast journey. There's so much information out there, and the industry is rapidly changing. No need to feel lost. You found the right podcast. Subscribe to the Lost and Found for Podcasters now. Everywhere that you listen to podcasts, if you prefer your podcast in video, click the link in the description to subscribe to this podcast on YouTube.
You are now tuned in to higher frequencies. We do this frequently. Turn your radio station to E3 for that decency. Listen to great music and the latest movement. Safe listening for anyone that's tuned in. Who you waking up to? Anna DeShawn, QCrew and friends. It's that real talk. Online radio with the spins. You caught up in traffic, frustrated. Just check in with E3 to shift your vibrations and get elevated. That's queer radio done right. Choose to be yourself. That's the only way to live life, and that's how it's done here. Just know y'all tuned in to the greatest. Ain't no competition. We ain't worried about the other stations. Check.
Family, let's start with a significant, and I mean significant, win for transgender rights that not enough people are talking about. Last Thursday, the Supreme Court rejected, I say rejected, West Virginia's attempt to prevent a transgender student from participating in girls' sports. The state had enacted a law called the Save Women's Sports Act. That's how they are guising their anti-trans legislation, by saying things like Save Women's Sports Act. Y'all, this act actually prevents transgender girls from participating in girls' sports at middle school, high school, and college levels. However, a lower court had prevented the state from enforcing the law against 12-year-old Becky while litigation continues. The Supreme Court's decision means that the law cannot be enforced against her while this case is ongoing. This decision comes amidst a wave. Y'all already know we've been talking about this wave of anti-trans measures by Republican states, seeking to restrict transgender athletes' participation in sports. And let's be clear, West Virginia is just one of 20 states with similar transgender sports bans, most of which are currently in effect. Now, lucky for Becky, she had some great lawyers with the ACLU and Lambda Legal. They actually called the state's attempts to enforce this law, quote, a baseless and cruel effort. The law was deemed to violate the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which requires that the law apply equally, okay, to everyone. And then they also used Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972, which prohibits sex discrimination in education. Now, the experts are saying the Supreme Court ruled this way because of how this case landed on their laps. The Attorney General of West Virginia sent this urgent request, y'all, while there is still this case pending, right? So the ruling was more procedural, they say, versus merit-based. But either way, we're gonna take this win. Because for now, 12-year-old Becky can continue running on her cross-country team, where literally no one has objected to having her there. Now, I don't want to end this story right here because I feel like there's more context to be had, okay? So on March 22nd of this year, HRC dropped a report indicating that more than half of transgender youth between 13 and 17 have lost or are at risk of losing access to age-appropriate, medically necessary gender-affirming care in their state. And this care, in so many cases, is life-saving care. So Jay Brown, who is HRC's Senior Vice President of Programs, Research, and Training, had this to say. LGBTQ plus people are living in a state of emergency. Today's findings illustrate how the ongoing assault against trans people is taking hold across the country and underscore how dire the situation is growing from our community day by day. These dangerous and discriminatory policies advocated by power-hungry politicians are void of any credible purpose. These politicians are spreading propaganda and creating more stigma, discrimination, and violence against trans people just to rile up extreme members of their base. We must stop them. We is us, family. We are us, that's us. We the us, okay? We must stop them. Now more than ever, we must fight back against extremism and hold anti-LGBTQ plus politicians accountable for bullying children and terrorizing families. That was one of the best quotes I've seen about what's happening, And we've talked about those 20 states. Now let's get specific, especially since just recently, this past week, lawmakers in Kansas voted to override Governor Laura Kelly's veto of the bill that bans trans girls from women's sports from kindergarten through college. So what are these 20 states? Let's get into it, okay? Those 20 states are Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia. This anti-LGBTQ legislation is having real-life effects, family, okay? On the mental health of young trans and non-binary people. It's also affecting LGBTQ people. And it should be affecting all of us. The Trevor Project and Morning Consult's recent polling found that an alarming 45% of trans and non-binary youth have seriously considered attempting suicide over the last year. I know folks whose attempts were successful. Do you? It is time, not only for lawmakers, but people, our neighbors, to understand the harm they are inflicting. Not just on the trans community, but on the entire LGBTQ plus community. We need to be creating inclusive policies, not those that divide us. President Biden's administration has proposed a significant rule change to federal anti-discrimination laws that could deal a real blow to state-level laws and proposals targeting trans student athletes. We will see if it gets any traction. Now that the sobering news is out of the way, let's talk about the power of the people. Two pretty popular trans TikTok creators, Mercury Stardust and Jory, they actually raised an astounding $2.2 million. Yes, $2.2 million, y'all, on TikTok, okay? To provide gender-affirming services to trans individuals across the world. With a combined following of 4.6 million people on the platform, Mercury and Jory organized a 30-hour TikTok-a-thon, okay, for Point of Pride. Now, Point of Pride is a nonprofit that supports trans healthcare and surgeries. The fundraiser was held in honor of last Friday's Transgender Day of Visibility, and the response was mind-blowing. This is wild. $1.6 million, y'all. That's a lot of zeros, okay? It's unprecedented. And it sends an amazing message of hope to all of us, doesn't it? And let me tell you what's even more amazing about the story is that the organizers, they actually reached their goal of $1 million, because $1 million was their goal, in 6 hours. The excitement in their room was palpable, and you can see it in their TikTok video. Click the link in the show notes, okay? Now, Point of Pride's president and co-founder, Aina Dowling, was overwhelmed by the outpouring of support and called it tremendously powerful. Jory, who withheld her last name due to privacy concerns, which I totally get, echoed Dowling's sentiment, stating that the fundraiser shows that people care about trans rights despite what we're hearing from Republicans. This movement is just the beginning, family, and we got to keep it going. This is one way that we fight back. You know, I believe we've got time, talent, and treasure. I'm from the church, okay? We coming off Resurrection Sunday, Easter Sunday. You feel me? We've got one of these three, time, talent, or treasure. We all have the opportunity to choose how we want to give back to the movement. We can choose how we want to show up today. Time, talent, and treasure. Keep that on your heart. In the themes of hearts, you know, this is one of the most heartwarming stories I've probably given all year. Okay, now prom is in the air at Osborne Park High School in Virginia, where the cheer team is making waves on social media for helping a student prom-pose to her girlfriend. Yes, the cheer squad, called the Stomp and Shake Elites, it's a cute name. It's a beloved fixture at this school, okay? They posted this precious moment on their official TikTok page, where it quickly went viral. Now, when I went to go check TikTok, the video had been taken down, but that's another story needing to be investigated. Right now, we're gonna focus on the prom pose, okay? In the video, you can see and hear chanting. The cheer squad is saying, "Will you say yes to prom? Will you say yes to prom?" As the girlfriend prom poses, holding up a sign asking her partner to go with her to the prom. The energy is electric. There are people outside. The sun is shining. Her girlfriend is all surprised. She looks like she's coming from practice. It is just an atmosphere filled with love and acceptance. Truly, this outpouring of love and support from viewers is just what we need in this moment. And how many of us wish we could have had that type of moment in high school? That's not even something I could have dreamt about. But theirs went viral. And big ups to the girlfriend for getting creative on the prom pose. Yes, I am here for it. Well done. Well done. And you know how we end every episode. Anna's got a word. Anna's always got a word. And I wanted to end today by saying that we stand with former Representative Justin Jones, and we stand with former Representative Justin Pearson. The vote in Tennessee to expel these two Black lawmakers is one of the most undemocratic things to ever happen in our country. We are living witnesses to see it all unfold. Now, my question to you, and I posed it earlier in the podcast, what will you do in this moment? Will you fight for justice? Will you fight for the most underrepresented? Will you fight for the most marginalized? We glorify our heroes from the 50s, 60s, and 70s who spoke truth to power. Will you do the same today? Because that's what's needed. This is our time. Don't sit on the sidelines, family. We need your voice. Get tapped in how and where you can. Otherwise, we will all watch our democracy quickly fall. Till next week, family. Peace. If you enjoyed what you hear, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is a production of E3 Radio, your #1 queer radio station playing queer music and reporting on queer news in high rotation.